Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, From Beginner to Pro, Navigating Your Investing Pro Subscription. I'm your host, Dave Schechter, and we're going to get started in just a little bit, but we'll give another minute or two for others to join. And in the meantime, you can go ahead and write in the chat and tell me where you're from. We see Aladdin. Hi, welcome. Where are you from, Aladdin? I see Lukasz is from Poland. Nice to meet you, Lukasz. Thanks for joining. Would anybody else like to let us know where they're from? Alex from Ireland. Richard from rainy London. Welcome, one and all. Okay, I think we can go ahead and get started. We have a critical mass of people who have joined. So, on today's agenda, before I get started, can everybody just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me? Okay, last time we had some technical difficulties at the start, so I just want to make sure that everybody can hear me okay. I'm going to go ahead and take that as a yes. So let's go ahead and get started. So on today's agenda, we have some free tools worth knowing. And then after that, I'm going to show everyone the Investing Pro feature overview, which are namely ProPicks AI, Warren AI, Fair Value, Health Score, ProTips, and ideas. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm just going to go ahead and zoom in a little bit for you. And before I do get started, I want to give a quick overview of what Investing.com is. Investing.com is a global financial news analysis and data website. We also have an app, of course. We cover 33 local editions and markets, and markets in all of those 33 unique countries. And if you'd like to go ahead and dial in your particular country or edition, all you need to do is just hover over the flag icon in the top right corner and, of course, select your edition. So first, we're going to give a quick overview of the homepage. And in general, this webinar is oriented around where to find things on the website and how to use them. It's less about technical trading and things of that nature. It's more just to get oriented with the website itself. Excellent. So when I visit the site every single morning, I take a quick look at the news and analysis articles just to stay aware of all of the things that have happened while I was asleep. I'll then jump to the quick charts over here with indices, stocks, commodities, cryptocurrency, if that's your type of thing. Directly below that, we have the most undervalued and overvalued stocks. This is, of course, predicated on our fair value calculator, which we'll dig into more in depth in just a little bit. But for those of you who are Investing Pro subscribers, you can check out the most undervalued or the most overvalued stocks for today. Below that, we have the calendars, the economic and earnings. We have other calendars, which we're going to dig into in depth in just a little bit, but these are the chief among them are economic and the earnings calendars. Below that, we have a quick jumping point for ProPicks AI, which is our system's stock picking algorithm. Again, we're going to dig into that in depth in just a little bit. And then below that, we have the popular screeners, and of course, the screener itself we will go to in depth. So before I jump into all of these wonderful features, I do want to highlight for you the workstation on the right side of the page over here. This workstation follows you around the website, and it's just a really great jumping point. If you want to stay on the page that you're on, instead of using the navbar icons to navigate around the site, you can, of course, just use the workstation. So for example, if I wanted to take a quick look at commodities and bonds or ask Warren AI a quick question, again, we're going to dig into Warren AI in depth, or quickly check out the ProPicks AI or my watch list or any alerts or notifications that I've set. Or any breaking news. So the workstation is really just a great place, a really great place to have all of your tools without taking you away from the page. So now we're going to go ahead and dig into the first free feature, which is the economic calendar. So you can find the economic calendar in the top navbar, and essentially we offer a couple of different types of calendars. Number one is the economic calendar, as I mentioned. Number two is holidays that your local market might be closed. Earnings, of course, which is very important. Dividends, splits, IPOs, and of course, expiration. So on the economic calendar, you have different time frames that you can look at: today, tomorrow, yesterday, this week, or next week. What I like to do is at the top of the week, I'll go ahead and click on this week and see what's on the ledger for this week. I can see that today we have a PPI report. And then on Thursday, we have core CPI, year over year, and month over month CPI, which are all inflation related reports. You have the forecast, what it was previously, and once the event actually happens, we actually give you the actual performance. So for example, we see that the PPI forecast was an increase of 0.3%. It actually came in under that. And prior to that, it was 0.7%. Excuse me. If I wanted to get a better understanding of what all of these important economic events are, I can, of course, just click on the item itself, and it'll give me a breakdown and some helpful charts and related news articles for this particular item. Now, there are a couple things I want to show you, and that is you can filter specifically for your favorite country or exchange. You can also choose to select the economic events based off of specific categories like employment or bonds, inflation, so on and so forth, and of course the level of importance. I particularly like lowering my noise to signal ratio, so I'm only going to select the super duper important events. And once I've locked in my particular settings, I'm going to go ahead and click apply. And here are all the super duper important economic events that are happening specifically within the US. I can, of course, dial in my particular region. I'm currently based in sunny Tel Aviv, so you can dial in your particular time zone. And the reason that this is important is because if you go back to your filters, you can choose to display the time that this report is going to be released, or the time remaining until the announcement, which I've chosen to do so. And you can see that within the next 22 minutes, the crude oil inventories report is going to come out. So it's really just a cool way to kind of be appraised of everything according to your own particular preferences. Now, let's say that I wanted to make sure that I don't miss the core CPI announcement on Thursday. So all I would need to do is just hover over the right side of the screen until I see the alert icon appear. I then go ahead and click this icon. This was already on my map, so you can see that the alert was already set, but if it wasn't, I can just go ahead and click on the alert. I can choose the frequency of how I want the alert to be set, send a reminder, and go ahead and I'll click create. And here I get a confirmation pop-up saying that it's been created. So the same thing with earnings. Why don't we go ahead and take a look at what's on the ledger? We see that on Thursday, Adobe is going to be releasing their earnings. I want to stay appraised of that. I only want to do this particular earnings release. Send me a reminder one day before, and let's go ahead and click create. Excellent. So now that I have created my alerts, how do I go about finding and managing them? So all I would need to do is just hover over my profile icon until the drop-down menu appears. And then I can click on either Alerts Feed or Alerts Center. I'm going to go ahead and click on Alert Center. And here I see all of my earnings alerts. Here's Adobe that we just added. And of course, the CPI year over year, which I have as a recurring notification. So there are other alerts that we can set, and I'm going to show you how to do that in just a little bit. But all of those alerts that you've set are allocated here in the Alert Center. If any of your alerts have been triggered, you can go ahead and click on your alerts feed, and it'll show you the alert that was triggered in the last 24 hours or older. And you can, of course, filter for any particular alert. So speaking of alerts, what other types of alerts can we set? So if I go to any equity page, why don't we just use Cirrus Logic? Whoop, I misspelled that. So let's use Cirrus Logic as an example. Just as a disclaimer, I have not made any positions for or against Cirrus Logic in the last 72 hours. This is surely for demonstrative purposes. So if I wanted to set an alert for Cirrus Logic, I just click on the bell icon, and I can now set different alerts depending on price movements, whether it goes up or below a certain price, or if there's a percentage change, a gain or a loss, or both. Whether particular trading volumes, I can set the threshold, and of course, the earnings release that we saw on the earnings calendar. So all of this can be managed directly from the equity page over here. And of course, if I wanted to go ahead and review all of those alerts, I can just come back to the profile icon, alert center, and I can go ahead and I can check all of those. So for example, I set a price alert if it moves above $41 for end phase, only to be triggered once. So that's just an example. Excellent. So the next thing that I would like to show you guys is the news articles. So news items can be found at the top of the page over here. If you just hover over it, you can get a breakdown based on particular categories such as earnings, analyst ratings, economic indicators, and of course, Pro News, which you need to be an Investing Pro subscriber in order to have access to this news. The reason that I'm showing you this is because specifically during earnings season, there are specific places on the site that I visit. So if you see the sub tab over here, earnings, it'll then give you a breakdown of all of the either rumors or synopses of earnings calls that have been had. I like to just come in here and browse during earnings season just to make sure that I didn't miss anything important. We do, of course, also have a SWOT analysis, which is generated by our AI. And also, of course, analyst ratings. Again, just I give this a quick browse through just to make sure that any changes that analysts have made, I'm aware of. And of course, for you data nerds, for these earnings reports, we have the transcripts available for you. Excellent. So the next thing that I want to show you is the analysis, which can be found in the top nav over here. It's also broken down by specific categories. So why don't we just go ahead and click on it. Here's analysis and opinion. Why don't we use this article as an example. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click through to it. Now, let's say that I read through this article, I like this analyst's thesis, and I want to be notified of any future analysis that this particular analyst comes out with. So I'm already following Damien, but if I wasn't, all I'd need to do is just click on the follow button, and I would be alerted with any future analyses that Damien comes out with. Another important thing about the analysis articles is sometimes you see a cool headline that piques your interest, but unfortunately you don't have enough time to read it in that moment and you want to save it for later. All I would need to do is just click on the bookmark icon at the top of the page and it's saved. Now, how do I go ahead and see all of my saved items? I can, of course, just hover over my profile icon and then select saved items. And here I have a curated list of all of the saved items that I have for easy retrieval at a later date. And I can, of course, filter this depending on news analysis or comments. Excellent. So the next thing that I want to show you guys is the screener. So for those of you who are not familiar with a stock screener, it's an excellent way to sift through all of the massive universe of stocks that there are. So for example, this particular default country is on the US, and in the universe of US stocks, there are about 7,770 stocks that are inside our US universe. So if I wanted to filter for specific stocks based on investing themes or criteria that's important to my investing, I would go ahead and I'd click on more filters. And then based off of a slew of different attributes, I can then dial in my filters in order to surface stocks that are important for my investing. So for example, let's say I want to take a look at, I want to exclude any nano caps, which are super tiny companies. I want a PE ratio of a low PE ratio. I want EPS growth to be positive. And you see that with each and every single one of the filters that I'm adding, my universe of stocks gets smaller and smaller. So based on the attributes that I've dialed in, I'm now surfacing only those relevant stocks. And if I scroll down, I then get the results over here. If I scroll all the way down, I can select how many results I want to show at any given moment. Again, I like to lower my noise to signal ratio. I like to focus on things one at a time to make sure that I internalize everything. So I'm only gonna select 10 rows. And then I can now slice these 265 stocks that I've found that I found in this screen according to different ways of analyzing the data. So for example, here on the overview, it tells me exactly what the stock is, what the market cap is, PE ratio, and if I slide the cursor over to the right, I can see the fair value upside. Again, we're going to dig into how fair value is comprised in just a moment, but it is also part of the screener, the fair value label, analyst price target. If I wanted to look for insights, I can see what the upside is, analyst target upside, the number of analysts tracking any particular stock, the health label, cash flow, so on and so forth. If I am a Pro Plus subscriber, I can create my own custom view for the screen as well. Now, let's say that I am a complete novice at investing and I still want to be able to use the screener. So how I would do that is I would click on Explore Screens. We have preset screens available for those of you who are looking for inspiration. So let's say that I'm looking for value stocks and that are consistent earnings growers. Sorry about that. Here, consistent earnings growers. I'm going to apply that now. And now, if I wanted to explore what is comprised of consistent earning growers, I can, of course, just look at the label itself right over here. It says 3-month growth return of plus 10.2%, risk is medium. But if I wanted to get a better understanding, then I would just click on the tabs itself, and then I can see it's a positive return. Operating margin is also positive. Growth, its EPS growth is positive as well. Valuation, excluding nano caps, and is favorable. So just giving you guys some insight as to how you can, even if you don't have any investing experience at all, how you can go ahead and use the screener and leverage it for your advantage. So now that we've covered all of these free tools, all of the tools that I've shown you up until this point are completely free. And so now we're going to go ahead and we're going to dig into the Investing Pro features. So if I want to jump to the Investing Pro dashboard, I click on the Open Investing Pro button at the top of the screen here. And immediately you'll see some of the features already piped directly into a watch list that you've created. So for example, I can see that Enphase, according to our fair value calculator, has a 30% upside. The label itself is considered undervalued. Analyst target is fair. And if I slide the cursor, I get more information. If you want to modify any of these attributes inside any of these views, you can just click on the plus and then add or delete as you see fit. And if you wanted to add more stocks to your watch list, you click on this plus and then you can just type in whatever you'd like. So let's do Sears. It's already in there. So just FYI. Here, I'm just going to go ahead and delete this guy because I want to show you guys how you can create your own views inside your watch list. So these are the 4 default Investing Pro watch list views that you have. You have market view, you have risk, which shows you beta, current ratios, Altman Z-score, efficiency, operating income, return on assets, and of course, our proprietary health labels. But let's say that I am a dividend investor and I want to create a view that is dedicated towards dividend-related attributes. All I need to do is click on the Add View button in the top right corner over here. Let's call it Dividend Lens. Go ahead and click Create. And then I'm going to select it from my available list of views. And now I'm going to go ahead and populate this particular view. So I'm going to click on Dividends. So if there's a ton of attributes that you can pipe into any particular view. And if you don't know what any of these are, so for example, Chowder rule number, I have no idea what that is. So if I don't know, all I need to do is just hover over the information icon and it gives me a readout of what this particular attribute is. So why don't we go ahead and add in dividend frequency, growth streak, payment streak. Let's do CAGR over 7 years. Let's see, the dividend coverage ratio is, which is essentially the cash cushion to make sure that this stock can continue paying this dividend. And let's add in also the cash amount of the last dividend. Go ahead and save my changes. And now all of that info has now been piped into my view. So once we create a view inside the InvestingPro dashboard, it's now ported over to a couple of other places on the site as well. So for example, on ProPicks AI, if I click through to any strategy and I click through to the portfolio, the dividend lens view that I've created has now been ported over to ProPicks. Hold on, we're going to get into what ProPicks is in just a second. But I wanted to show you where the view is also ported over to. It's also ported over to the Pro Dashboard Screener. And it can be found over here. Maybe I just, here it is, dividend lens. Okay. So that is as far as the watch list is concerned. So why don't we go ahead now and take a look at an equity page. So let's use our example of Cirrus Logic again. Excellent. So why don't we go ahead and drag this down a little bit. We'll put that over here. So as you can see, all of these widgets are customizable. You can move them and arrange them in any order that you'd like. So you'll notice that the equity page on the free side of Investing.com is very different than the InvestingPro equity page. So why don't we go ahead and explore all of these key differences. So at the top here, I have the price, the change if the market is open, and of course the 52-week range. Directly to the right of that, I have something that's called fair value. So what is fair value? Fair value is our system's way of appraising the true value of a stock based on its current book of business in relation to what the market price is. So for example, Cirrus Logic, according to these 13 different investing models, EV over revenue multiples, price to book multiples, 10-year DFC EBITDA exit. So according to all of these models, we've appraised that Cirrus Logic is actually valued according to their current book of business at almost $145, which is an almost 30% upside in relation to the current market price. So we also show you how many analysts are currently covering this particular stock. Now, we here at Investing.com are not fans of black boxes. We like to be as transparent as we possibly can. And so let's say that I wanted to understand how the system appraised EV to revenue multiples and priced this one particular metric for Cirrus Logic at being valued at $132. So if I wanted to better understand that, all I would need to do is click on the number itself. I then get transported to the models page for EV to revenue multiples. And here is all the math that goes into that goes into that appraisal. So we have the current stock price, we have the fair value price, we have all of the benchmarks that we are valuing Cirrus Logic in relation to its peers and sector. Here are the metrics that we're looking at. Here's the LTM revenue multiple, the projected revenue, fair value, benchmark editor. All of this information and all of the data is available to you so that way you can explore and compare at your leisure. So going back to the overview page, let's say that I am an advanced investor and I don't think that PE multiples, I want to see what the fair value calculator does by removing PE multiples. I can just click on the box to remove it. And if I do, you'll notice that the data changes. All right, so if you're an advanced investor and you want to look at specific appraisals based on specific attributes, then you can go ahead and you can dial that in at your leisure. The next thing I want to focus on is something called financial health. Financial health is determined by ranking a company on over 100 factors against company inside a specific sector and industry. And essentially, we're looking at 5 core values when appraising financial health. Cash flow, growth, price momentum, profitability, and relative value. We then rate them on a scale of 1 to 5, and then we roll all of those core metrics up into an overall health label. So by analyzing these 5 core attributes, our system has designated a 4 out of 5 performance for Cirrus Logic. Now, of course, we don't like black boxes and we want to be as transparent as possible. So let's say I want to understand why relative value got such a low score. So I'm going to go ahead and click on relative value. And if I scroll down, and I click on relative value, these are all of the metrics that are covered inside relative value. All right, and I can see what the value itself is, how this rates as a percentile in relation to its sector and peers, and what score the system gave it. And if I wanted to see how each and every one of these attributes performed over time, I can click on history and see how this metric has fluctuated over time. You can do the same for profitability. We see it's doing pretty well on the profitability end. Take a look at cash flow. It's doing pretty good in asset efficiency. It's doing really great on the current ratio. And again, I can explore the history of each and every one of these. To the right, you have a handy up to 5-year time frame with all of these particular attributes in order for you to see how they've performed over time. And of course, the latest period. You can view components. There's just a ton of data that's available to you. You can also add, remove, and it'll change the ratio depending on how you've dialed in that particular filter. Excellent. So let's go back to the overview page because there is one more thing I want to show you, and that is ProTips. Now, what is ProTips? ProTips is a flag that our system presents to members as something that is bullish, which is for the company, or bearish, which is not so great for the company, or something that's neutral, right? So for example, I see that Cirrus Logic has a perfect Petrosky score of 9. Why don't we dive into what that is? So if I click on view more, it tells me what the Petrosky score is, what a score of 9 means, and why it's a good thing. I now also have a chart with its peer benchmarks to see how Cirrus Logic is performing with this particular Petrosky score metric in relation to its peers. And I also have historical trends. Let's quickly take a look at another one. Management has aggressively been buying shares back. Why is that a good thing? Usually, it essentially means they are utilizing the company's capital to buy its own stock back from the market, reduces the number of shares available. The less shares, the higher the value of the stock is. And here we have the peer benchmarks. We see that Cirrus is doing pretty good, but there's another one, PLab, that is aggressively buying back more shares. So maybe you might want to use this for idea generation and explore what PLab is doing or does. And here's some more helpful charts about their balance sheet and, of course, their historical trends. So this is as far as the key metrics that are available on the equity page. If you continue scrolling down, you have handy charts with price history up to 10 years. This gives a general picture of the company's health as well, and also what the gain or the loss has been over that particular time frame. We see that over the past 10 years, Cirrus has done quite well for itself. Directly below that, we also have some other quick metrics. I can see that they don't offer a dividend. Again, if that's important to your investing, that'll be a quick and easy flag for you to understand. And some other benchmark data, quote, value, size, growth, etc. And then, of course, the news, which if you like the news and you want to move it to the top and that's important to you, we can go ahead and we can do that. Excellent. So I'd just like to sum up these 3 core features, and this is kind of what I tell people that are just starting to use InvestingPro, or any person that is a novice investor. What I tell them is, even if you don't know anything about ratios or anything of that nature, you can essentially get an InvestingPro subscription. You can take a look at what the current market price is, take a look at the fair value. Is it green? Yes. Awesome. Move along to the next thing, which is financial health. Is it green? Yes. Awesome. It's worth exploring further. Take a look at the pro tips. Are there any red flags that you might see that might prevent you from doing further due diligence on this particular stock? No? Awesome. Let's put it in the bank, and let's put that on a hot list of things that we want to explore more in depth. Right? So why don't we just take a quick look at another? Let's take a look at end phase. Again, I don't have any position in end phase in the last 72 hours. This is just for demonstrative purposes because I want to show you what a bear signal is for pro tips. Stock price movements are quite volatile. Why is this a bad thing? If it's volatile, it means that it might be at risk for certain things. And here's the volatility in relation to its sector and peers. So just FYI. Awesome. So let's move on to the next segment, which is ideas. The idea behind ideas is there are plenty of really good investors and plenty of really good and prolific investors out there. For example, Warren Buffett, that might know a thing or two about investing. So it might behoove you to copy what they're doing, or at least copy some of what they're doing. So that's kind of what we set up here. So I'm going to go ahead and click through to Warren Buffett's stock portfolio. It tells me what the value of his holdings are, what the quarter over quarter change has been, how many assets, how many holdings they have in this particular portfolio. This is the percentage of the portfolio that each and every individual stock inside this portfolio comprises. Here's the sector concentration. So it's just a really cool way to surface ideas. You can also, if you scroll down the page, do this based off of specific investor types or sector focus. So let's say I'm looking for ideas in the information technology sector. I can take a look at Scott Ferguson's portfolio, or if I wanted to type in something specific, I can go ahead and I can do that. Why don't we type in Bill Ackman's portfolio? Right, he's got about 13 billion in there. He's got a nice quarter over quarter change for himself. See, he's got Uber in there, Amazon at almost 10%, Alphabet. Sector concentration is primarily hotels and restaurants, ground transport, capital markets. So again, it's just a really cool way for you to see what other prolific investors are doing, maybe try to copy what they're doing. And if you want to copy their entire portfolio and create a watch list out of it, you can go ahead and you can do that. And now if I wanted to flip through all of the different portfolios or watch lists that I have, I can do that in the top left corner inside my watch list. So why don't we now move on to ProPicks AI. So what is ProPicks AI? ProPicks AI combines real-time data, advanced analytics, and Investing.com's proprietary scoring to rank stocks by upside, valuation, growth, and risk. Essentially what we're trying to do is take the human emotion element out of the stock picking process and focus only on the data and the potential that might be. We then break this down into strategies based on theme and also by sector and country. So currently we offer ProPicks AI in 11 different countries. I have it on good authority that by the beginning of next month, we're going to be adding another 16 countries and another 70 strategies. So definitely stay tuned for that. And yeah, if you wanted to filter through any particular country or any particular focus, you can do that over here. So why don't we go ahead and take a look at our flagship strategy, which is Tech Titans, which is focusing on the latest tech trends and selecting the 15 top tech stocks each month. So, excuse me, just my throat's a little dry. So on the Tech Titans overview page, I can see the overall performance of the strategy since it was beginning to be backtested in 2013. I can see what the total projected return would have been since 2013, what the annualized return is, and the risk that is involved. Directly below that, I have the picks history. So picks history is essentially, it's an activity log of stocks that were added or removed from the strategy. We rebalance each and every strategy on the first of every month, meaning we add and remove stocks to every strategy on the first of every month. If you want to take a look at the stocks that have been added or removed on any given month, you have the ability to do so by selecting the date range in the top right, in the right corner over here. So why don't we take a look at what were the changes that were made in September. So I see that Astera Labs was added at $182. It's currently live. And if I wanted to understand why the stock was added to the strategy, I can just click on the show more in the rationales column, and it'll tell me Astera Labs delivered stellar financial results. It maintains impressive gross profit margins, has exceptional momentum, has a strategic partnership with NVIDIA, so on and so forth. Just going to zoom out a little bit more. There we go. And so we show you when a stock was added, we show you when a stock was removed. And regarding the removal, sometimes we rotate a stock out of the strategy if we see a better if the algorithm has identified a better opportunity. Now, that's not to say that if a stock was removed that it's a sell signal. It just sometimes means that our system has identified a better opportunity, and therefore it's going to rotate that stock that was performing well out and essentially cashing out at a win. So for example, Viasat performed very well for us. It had a 95% increase since it was added to the strategy, and therefore it was rotated out. Sapiens also, I believe it went private, but it was selected when it was still a public company. So we cashed that out and rotated it out of the strategy at a 60% gain. And then, of course, unfortunately, not all selections can be winners. So for example, Gartner, we took a 23% loss and it was removed from the strategy. So as I mentioned before, if you want to understand why any particular thing was removed, go ahead and click on the show more in the rationale column, and you'll be able to understand why that particular change was made. So directly to the right of that, we have something called Pro Research. You can also find this at the top of every equity page. Why don't we just use our trusty example, Cirrus Logic, and you can find it over here. So what is Pro Research? Essentially, it's an executive summary of any particular company. I think the amount of stocks that we're covering is about 4,500 in the US. And it just gives you an executive summary and all of the data and also all of the key data. So for example, Cirrus Logic has a strong partnership with Apple, has a perfect Petrosky score of 9, which we mentioned earlier. Here are the pro tips. Their analyst projections, flowcharts of how the company is spending its money. And of course, my favorite, which is the bull case and the bear case, the for and against argument as to why you should hold this stock, and of course, the additional insights. Now, these are in PDF. You can go ahead and you can print them out, share them with your friends. This is for you to enjoy. So back to ProPicks. Let's just shimmy back to ProTips. So we covered the picks history, which gives you insight into what was added or removed. And then below that, we have the stock spotlight, which showcases the outperformers, the new additions, and of course, the underperformers. So we can see that the outperformers, let's take a look at Oracle. It's up 6% since it was added at the beginning of this month. We can see that it was added at 226, and we see that it's gone up 6% since then. So let me just take a look at what they're at right now. 335.56. Hold on, it looks like there's a bit of an issue there, so I'm going to report that to the product team because I just want to double check that that's the price that it was added, but I'm pretty sure that it is, and that the 6.8% should be indeed much, much larger. Okay. And then here at the bottom, you have the strategy details, and of course, the associated news that goes along with this particular section. If I wanted to see how the new additions are doing, then I can go ahead and I can do so. Excellent. So the next thing that I want to show you is, of course, Warren AI. So what is Warren AI? Warren AI is Investing.com's proprietary large language model that is using the data that millions of Investing.com members use and trust on a daily basis. So I have people ask me, what's the difference between Warren AI and, let's say, ChatGPT or Claude? So there are really two key differences. Those key differences are, number one, the language model itself. For those of you that aren't familiar, there are language models that are general purpose, like Copilot from Microsoft, that are kind of good at everything. And then you have Claude or Perplexity that's good at research. So different language models have different core functions. And so Warren AI is specifically created to answer financial questions, meaning that you can ask it an abstract question about finance and it'll know exactly what you mean by that. If you'd ask the same question to ChatGPT, for example, chances are that you'd get a different result. Now, The second key difference between Warren AI and ChatGPT, for example, is the data itself that's being used. So as I mentioned before, Warren AI is using Investing.com's data, whereas ChatGPT is using all sorts of sources from the internet, which you're not entirely sure how recent that data is. So our data is updated in real time. ChatGPT's data might be sourcing from an article that was 3 or 4 months ago, which might not be as reliable. Doesn't mean it's not reliable, it just might not be as reliable when you're trying to make investing decisions. So those are essentially the core differences. So here, if you'd like to just get some idea generation, you can just click on some of the tabs here. And so why don't we go ahead and explore technical insights. Sorry, there we go. Why don't we do a technical summary of Cirrus Logic, let's say. Actually, let's use a different one. Why don't we use, let's say, NVIDIA. Right, so it's asking, summarize NVIDIA's latest RSI, MACD, moving averages, and also start with the bottom line. So one of the things I really love about Warren AI is that it intuitively knows to present the data also in chart form if necessary, but it also abstractly thinks about how an investor would want the data presented to them, right? And it also builds that presentation using jargon that makes sense. So for example, the headline here is overbought, but still running. Here's why. Next one is, oops, sorry about that. Next one is bullish everywhere you look, a surge with caution tag. It grabs a chart. You can actually see different points on this chart over here. And then, of course, the key takeaway. Why don't we go ahead and ask it another question? Let's say I wanted to get insights on my watch list. So why don't we do a risk-reward analysis for one of my watch lists? It's probably going to ask me which watch list I want to do an analysis of. Yeah, why don't we go ahead and take a look at Bill Ackman's watch list and see what the risk-reward profile is of those stocks. Right, so it's building the chart. It's giving me the analyst upside. Okay, let's try to refresh that real quick. I guess I'm running into bandwidth issues while I'm streaming, so I apologize for that. Yeah, and you can see it's building the risk-reward showdown. Here's the table. It gives you Warren's own take about the data that it's presenting. Here are some of the key insights. I'm just going to let this load up for a little bit. Here, it's thinking about the volatility and beta visualized. Again, I don't want to waste too much time on this, but you guys get the general idea. Now, there's two more things regarding Warren that I want to show you, and that is, let's see if I can find it. Yeah, sorry about that. It looks like I have some bandwidth issues. I apologize. Okay. So the two other things I want to show you about Warren AI, and then we'll wrap it up, is that about a month or two ago, there was a blurb that Trump wanted to cut the interest rates to 1%. And so I was curious about what the impact would have been on the stock market or cryptocurrency or the real estate market. And then I asked Warren if it had to guess which stocks would see the largest increase as a direct result, what would those stocks be and why? And so it gave me a wonderful answer based off of this hypothetical scenario of what would happen. So you can ask it abstract questions and hypothetical questions like that. And then finally, the last thing that I want to show you, and this is going back to the workstation, is that let's say that I'm on a any equity page. And I want to ask Warren something as basic as, should I buy this stock? So Warren knows exactly what page I'm on, and it'll just give me a breakdown and give me the for argument and the against argument, risk, volatility, weakness, value, strength, so on and so forth. So Warren is a really amazing tool that lowers your noise to signal. It expedites your due diligence because essentially it's doing all the work for you. So the only thing you really need to, I guess, get good at is the prompts and asking it the right questions. Excellent. So with that, I will conclude our webinar for today. So I'd just like to quickly recap some of the things that we've gone over. Do create alerts for economic earnings and dividend announcements. Do follow authors and save articles for later. Create a watch list to see the fair value and health of your assets and personalize that by creating views. Use ProPicks AI, ideas, undervalued stocks, and the screener for idea generation. Use Warren AI and ProTips to speed up due diligence. And unfortunately, we need to remove this. Our summer sale is unfortunately over, but our Black Friday sales will be beginning in November. So stay tuned for that. So with the time remaining that we do have, I would like to take some of your questions. Here, we'll just leave this up. Excellent. So I have a comment from Lukasz to do a 1080p quality video. I've been instructed by our marketing team to do these webinars in 720 as it does reduce latency because we are live streaming on YouTube as well. I will try to explore a way for us to get a better resolution for these webinars. So thank you for bringing that up, Lucas. The next question is, how often are component model weights recalibrated, and what typically drives large divergences when InvestingPro shows 20% upside while average analyst targets show minus 20%? So essentially, the way that you need to view all of these different ratings is essentially kind of like critics, right? So an analyst is essentially a critic. He's a very well-versed critic, but it's also an opinion at the end of the day, right? So imagine that, I don't know how old everybody is here, but I just turned 40 years old. And back in the day, we had something called, there were two movie reviewers called Siskel and Ebert, give it 2 thumbs up. So essentially, you need to think of a fair value as one type of opinion. You need to think of analyst ratings as another type of opinion. And between those differing opinions, you can find the truth, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that one is right and one is wrong and that they're conflicting. It just means that you're looking at it from 2 different vantage points and you're using probably different models associated with your calculation. The next question is, can I get notified by what has changed in the strategy every month? I'm assuming, Severio, that this is for ProPicks AI. So I forgot to mention this before, but we notify InvestingPro members of all strategy updates also on site. You're going to see like a banner before, usually 3 days before, we'll notify you that a strategy rebalance is coming. And then as soon as the strategy is updated, we also notify you on site. In addition to that, we also send push notifications, and we also send an email highlighting last month's wins and also giving you an alert that the strategy has been updated. So the next question is, does it say the weight over the portfolio that should have every single stock showed in the AI idea? So no, it doesn't. And that's not really the point of ProPicks AI. We're not specifically telling you buy 5 shares of Sapiens and then sell at $82. That's not what this is really for. This is more reliant on surfacing stock ideas individual stock ideas, and then we provide the rationale for you as to why each and every change has happened in the rationales column. The next question is, should I add to my portfolio the stock at the beginning of the month once the new analysis is made? I'm going to leave that up for your better judgment. What we try to do is, as soon as the strategies are updated, we try to notify you on every available marketing channel that we have. So that way you can make the best decision, so that way you can make the decision that's best for your investing. Again, it's hard for us to know each and every member's individual situation, to give a blanket answer of buy on the first, because there's just too many there's too many variables. So what we're trying to do here is surface interesting stock ideas for you based on different themes, and then we're providing the information for you to make the decision that's right for you. All right, so that is all the questions that I see for now. I want to thank everyone for joining today's webinar, and bye-bye for now.